Today's video, I am more than excited. I am ready to take my socks off and throw it across the room. Across my recommended page, I happen to catch with my little brown eye a video from Game Informers where they are interviewing the director and producer for Capcom Street Fighter 6. Okay, that's enough talk. I'm gonna shut up now before my list smacks me.
カプコンから離れられて、彼が今までやってきたいろいろとシーズン5から新しい体制でやらせてもらってる。
During his tenure, we learned a lot. Okay, that says a lot because Street Fighter 5 and the disaster that was the launch day, it all points back to Ono-san. Let's just say Ono-san and his impact on Street Fighter 5 is about equivalent to an extreme sour crybaby. And honestly, if you've been like keeping up with Street Fighter 5 or been playing Street Fighter 5, once Ono left, you definitely notice a shift because for one being the fact that Season 5 of Street Fighter 5 actually wasn't even supposed to be a thing. They were ready to just cut it off at Season 4. And it feels like from when these two took over, it seemed like Season 5 was essentially a we're sorry to the fans apology gift where they ended up putting a lot of fan favorites, most notably Dan. There's also Rose, who's from the Alpha series, and in a surprising turn of events that nobody saw coming, like absolutely nobody, Capcom somehow remembered that they made multiple fighting games other than Street Fighter and added Akira from Project Justice rival schools. And I think that right there was definitely when everybody was just like, something is up with Capcom. There's something different going on. Somebody in the fighting game division was changing up the recipes, okay? There was no more 12 herbs and spices. Somebody added that 13th spice. Even as I sit here and ponder, like with the previous other seasons of Street Fighter that came out and compare it to Season 5, none of them have the same vibe as Season 5. Like, what the hell is a falk? It sounds like a pigeon-toed beanstalk. Zeku is like a restaurant or a grocery store where like they don't have a trademark grocery bag, so they end up giving you the one that has like thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you running up and down the bag. That's what Zeku is. He's not Strider, but he is Strider, but he's not Strider. But in terms of past titles, we're definitely looking to classic Street Fighter 2.
イメージを今の技術で作ったらどうなるかっていうところはちょっと気にしては作ったりしてます。
I find it interesting that he says that they're looking at Street Fighter 2 and they're pretty much essentially reimagining Street Fighter 2 and trying to like modernize it, which I think is good because of the fact that Street Fighter 2 is like the most popular Street Fighter game. Street Fighter 2 is the reason why Street Fighter is known globally, and it's the reason why to this day a character like Chun-Li can still be referenced in a Nicki Minaj song.
リレーションね難しいですけど、世界がつながってるっていう意味で、ファイナルファイトのイメージは結構使ったりしてますね。ストリートファイターの世界って同じものになっていて、実はファイナルファイトも当時はストリートファイター89というタイトルで作られてたり。
See, this is what happens when you have a director who's not only a lover of fighting games, but also knows their lore and history. I did not even know that Final Fight was technically Street Fighter 89. I just thought that Final Fight and Street Fighter this whole time was just two separate franchises from each other. Sort of like how Bandai Namco has Soul Calibur and Tekken.
ワールドツアーっていうゲームモードのスタートとなる場所の舞台が、メトロシティというファイナルファイトに出てきた。
So notice how he just said the starting point for the World Tour mode in Street Fighter 6 is Metro City, which he's pretty much confirming. Metro City is just one of the various locations that you can actually travel to. Having separate locations makes a great vehicle if you use the locations to not only go to different cities or different countries, but also go to different dimensions or enter into different areas that signal a crossover. Like imagine going to the high school in Project Justice. If they decide to do like a Darkstalkers crossover with the World Tour, they could literally just make a location where you travel to, I don't know, Dimitri's castle or that fucking seed of Satan hell spun area where that demonic baby fetus is in the back growing. So,
もともと好きっていうのはあるんですけど、
He's a big fan of hip hop culture. Listen, I knew this the first time I saw Matsumoto-san. Look at that hairline. My man's needs a shape up. It's probably been a little rough little 5 months since he last got his haircut. But when we first saw Nakayama and Matsumoto-san's hairline, you could go to the butcher shop and cut meat off of that hairline.
的にはまず今新しい層を取っていきたいなっていうのがあって。 て、でよりストリートファイターと関わりがあるものと掛け合わせて。
So Matsumoto-san just stated a question that unfortunately for any hardcore fighting game players who want to delude themselves into thinking that the next fighting game strictly cater only to them, fighting games are not excluded from the burning question that every company always asks, which is, how do we make more money? At the end of the day, the company wants to draw in a new audience because despite them loving and appreciating their fans, if they're gonna start putting more money into the budget for these games, they know that like the amount of money that you're getting from a limited amount of people who continue to buy your games is eventually going to start to dwindle, which is why I find it so funny when people try to talk shit about Mortal Kombat. And I'm saying this as someone who absolutely hates the way that Mortal Kombat plays, but does that stop me from playing Mortal Kombat? No. And as a matter of fact, what I find surprising is that it's not even me who ends up buying Mortal Kombat and ends up enjoying it regardless of how much I suck. It's actually people like my brothers and my friends who end up buying Mortal Kombat because it offers a lot of other things other than just online matches. Like, not everybody who wants to buy a fighting game is buying a fighting game so that they can go to EVO or CEO or Frosty Faustings. Like, no, you have to give people a reason to buy a fighting game in the same manner that you have to give people a reason to buy a shooter game, to make people buy a MOBA. You have to win people over and provide them with a full experience and not just an experience where only those who are interested in playing fighting games seriously or on a more competitive scale can only enjoy. Like, you can't leave out the majority of people that are going to make you more money, which is people that don't play the game. You want to draw those people in, and that's what Street Fighter 6 is doing. As like Matsumoto-san just mentioned, like they're trying to win the appeal of people who last memory of Street Fighter may probably be literally Street Fighter 2. And it all goes back to trying to win non-fighting game players and casual fighting game players.
ものだと思っているので、そこにこう慣れていってもらうっていう目的と、あとはそのリュウとかチュンリーとかストリートファイターの世界に出てきたキャラクターたちについてもうよりこう面白い情報というか彼らのバックストーリーとかっていうのが
Pretty much Nakayama-san just said that World Tour is not just for traveling to different locations, but it's also a way for everybody to get to know the iconic characters and get to know their backstories. And it sounds like you get to interact with them along with fighting them possibly or sparring with them. So I think it's pretty cool that they're making a story mode that's not only making people interactive with learning how to fight, but it's also making people interactive with wanting to know the series as a whole. Always making adjustments through daily competitions. Okay, so pretty much the devs are like fighting each other and like testing to see what's going on in the game, or like improvements they should make in the game.
ホールドしてたら簡単に全てのものがこうガードできるっていう、強いものと強いものっていうのをちょっと
wanted to make those moves simple to perform. I think that's like actually pretty great because they're also like trying to take into account casual players while also at the same time they want these particular systems that they're implementing to also have like a strategy behind them so that it doesn't leave out the more experienced players, you know, being able to use those particular mechanics to create their own play style.
ジェイミーはですね、なんで作ったか。
Yes, let's talk about Jamie.
ストリートファイターシリーズ
The Drunken Fist Master.
格闘技っていうのは常に取り入れたいなと思っていて、で
But it was
なか
Nancy.
なかこうなんていうのかな。
Yeah, I can only assume because of the fact that Street Fighter 5 already has sort of a rigid system to it. But I'm glad that like with them making a new Street Fighter, they can actually experiment with all of these different play styles that they want to give to new characters, or even like making like improvements to the play style of the classic characters. I'm excited to see Jamie because one, he's a Drunken Fist Master B-boy, and two, Street Fighter has never had a Drunken Fist Master. If I remember correctly, the only few fighting games that have Drunken Fist Master or Drunken Fist type characters is Baraicho from Mortal Kombat, and there's one in Tekken that I believe is actually homage to Jackie Chan. I'm glad that Street Fighter is getting a Drunken Fist Master. As a matter of fact, it makes me even more excited to see who are these other new characters gonna be and what are their fighting styles gonna be. Oh shit, they're talking about Street Fighter 5.
じゃあどういう風に良くしていって6につなげてるのかっていうのはかなり話し合ったりしました。でなんですけど、中山さんが 以下チームが作っ
So he's pretty much talking about what I brought up earlier with the early days of Street Fighter V being very serious was when Ono was in charge and pretty much just completely shat on Street Fighter V. For those of you that did not buy Street Fighter V, let me explain to you what all was available on that very beautiful February 2016 day. Ooh, almost knocked down the modem. Even the modem is pissed off. What we had available for launch day was training, character stories, online, a shop. That's it. And honestly, we can take away the shop because, you know, you can buy costumes and shit. Who cares? Online mode, if you're somebody who doesn't particularly care to play online against other people. And unfortunately, people can bring up the fact that now Street Fighter V is a game worth playing. And it is. Now it's a pretty decent game. The thing is that it should not take a ridiculous amount of years for a game that came out to be perfect during its final year before support stops. I believe a lot of people keep forgetting how true this proverb is, with the saying, the first impression is always the lasting impression. And that statement still stands for something as simple as video games. And unfortunately, one bad taste is all it takes. You can still win people over. The thing about second chances is that you have to put 200% more effort into correcting what you screwed up to win those people back. And my heart goes out to these two guys because they are trying with all of their heart and soul to make a new Street Fighter game that overly makes up for the past 6 years of pissed off fans and for the past 6 years of a shitty launch that still stains people's hearts to this day. They're going all out for Street Fighter 6. And when I see that kind of dedication and effort being put into a game by two developers who you can clearly tell love what they're doing and want this game to just take off. These two guys love what they're doing, and that love is transferring over into Street Fighter 6. It's transferring over to every single time you see their Twitter account talking about a random fact of the day about a obscure ass character from Street Fighter Alpha 2 or from Darkstalkers or from Cyberbots or Red Earth. They want people to see that an effort now is being made, and they want to return that same passion and love back to the fans. Good. I'm glad that he also values communication. And I think the cool thing about them talking about communicating with the fans is that, if I'm not mistaken, I believe the producer for Monster Hunter, Ryozo Sugimoto, he actually ended up becoming the new head of the fighting game division and replaced Ono. All of the material that's came out about Street Fighter 6, it's so funny seeing like how so much of it resembles what they did with Monster Hunter World. You can do different faces. It reminded me of the gestures in Monster Hunter that you can do. They started doing the developer diaries and the developer live streams. Monster Hunter World would do that stuff too. And also Devil May Cry was doing it, the Resident Evil team. So to see Street Fighter start doing that too around season 5-ish is where you can really get a visual representation of the changes in the fighting game division actually happening. If I'm not mistaken, they were working on Street Fighter 6 around the same time after Street Fighter 5 came out. So they've been developing Street Fighter 6 for a good few years now.
ってのはまあどのね人にみんなあると思うんですけど、まあそこをうまく活用して、まあ今回もこうやってみんな遊んでもらってるのをチームチャットとかに送ったりして、
So they're like checking and seeing the reactions of people, and they know that they have to live up beyond the expectations that people are expecting for Street Fighter 6 because of the stain that Street Fighter 5's launch day has continued to leave a mark with.
進んでいくようなチーム、あとまあプロモーションとかチーム全体でやっていけたらなって思ってます。
I believe that's it. This interview was pretty cool. It really let the developers be open and honest about not only with what they're doing with Street Fighter 6 and how they're making sure that they make Street Fighter 6 the most perfect final product that it can be, but as well as them coming out and openly admitting like, we fucked up with Street Fighter 5. We know Street Fighter 5 is absolute horseshit, dog water garbage when it came out. And even though it wasn't our fault, we're still picking up the pieces and we're tackling and we're putting that pressure on ourselves ourselves, and we're using it as motivation to provide y'all with the best final product with Street Fighter 6. I don't even know if they're ever gonna see this video, but shout out to Nakayama-san, Matsumoto-san, and the other developers at Capcom that are working on Street Fighter 6. Shout out to all of them for putting their all into making sure that this next Street Fighter more than makes up for Street Fighter 5 and give us the ultimate experience as Road Warriors ourselves. I've done a lot of talking and my throat is starting to itch. I think it might have gonorrhea. That's gonna wrap up this video though. Thank you all so much for watching. Oh my god, Ryu. You're so smexy. You're so smexy, Ryu, with this beard and this chiseled chest.